Hi guys, this is Billy from AdultCello.com. So today I just want to talk about something I was talking about with a student. We all know that the four strings of the cello have different properties. You know, they're obviously different in terms of size, like thickness, and that it's a very different sensation when you have to play and switch strings, okay? The problem is that's good, theoretical knowledge, but how do I know how much I need to change the weight and speed when I move from one string to the other? Okay, that was kind of the question. And so here's an exercise that'll give you somewhat of a concrete understanding of how different they are and how it feels to change strings on a track. So we're going to be scientists here, which means we need to control some stuff so that we actually can learn something. So what we're going to control is the contact point across the strings. Okay, so what that means is when I start on the A string in a minute, I'm going to start somewhere in the middle, and as I play the other strings, I'm going to try my very best for you to keep the same contact point just across the strings, okay? So there are three things, as we know, just to review real quick, that create sound. It's our contact point, where we put it. It's how much weight we use when we are bowing and how much speed we use. So, and you can do it a million different ways. So to make that more simplified and educational, we're going to keep the contact point constant, all right? So here's the exercise. Got a metronome on 60, and I'm going to try to play a kind of a big, healthy A string sound and match it so that every 2 clicks is one full bow. Okay, so I'm going to pick a spot. Here we go. Okay, now what I'm going to do is do the same thing across the 4 strings, and I'm going to see on the A string, I'm going to make it so that it's a full bow, and then I'm going to just go across and see what happens, while keeping the same amount of sound decibel-wise. Okay, so if you start out nice and forte on the A string, and by the C string you're playing, and it's kind of like a mezzo piano or a piano, that's not what we're doing here. Okay, you want to keep it nice and even across. Okay, so that's the experiment. I want you to try it. So if you noticed, I used full bow on the A string, and then by the time I'm using the C string, because it's so heavy, I had to go with a much slower bow and a much heavier bow to create that same amount of sound. Otherwise, it would have just skidded. Okay, so keeping in mind that we aren't allowed in this exercise to change our contact point. If you're going to keep that, healthy mezzo forte maybe sound across the strings, and you're going to match it with the metronome, by the time you're on the C string, you're going to be using probably, like in my case, I'm using about half the bow, because I just have to slow down and sink in more. Otherwise, I'm just going to skid out. Or if I kind of power through and I don't skid out, I'll be playing forte if I really push my arm and make myself do the full bow. Okay, so that's kind of the exercise. It's such a good way of developing an understanding of how to play with these elements that we have, the three elements I talked about. So here we're going to go ahead and make a constant. Just a reminder, constant is the contact point, and then you can just play with speed and weight, but using your ear, you're trying to keep the same ribbon of sound and kind of the same thickness and the same dynamic level. Okay, I hope that helps, and if you have any questions, leave it in the comments below. Thanks so much.